Daniel Mendoza was the boxing champion of Britain at the end of the 18th century, so in the 1700s, from 1789 to 1795. In Britain in the 18th century, boxing was considered to be the national sport. And for very long after that. And one of the great patrons of boxing was the Prince of Wales, who became King George IV when he came to the throne. So boxing was patronized by the highest aristocrats in England, and Mendoza even went fox hunting with these aristocrats. You really had to be poor almost to take up something like boxing in those days as a means of gaining a livelihood. The wages for workers and for people of Mendoza's class were low. Poverty was endemic. There was real economic insecurity. And if somebody offered you a guinea, a pound roughly, to fight in a boxing match, well, that was a week's wages for a skilled artisan, to say nothing of an unskilled worker. And if somebody offered you 50 or 100 or 1,000 guineas, as Mendoza earned in one match, that was really an irresistible opportunity. It was a brutal sport. There were no gloves. It was bare knuckle boxing. A round went on for as long as it went on until somebody dropped to the stage, and the matches could go on for hours. One thing, though, that was different, ironically, is that before the introduction of boxing gloves, the injuries to the head were probably much less significant. A bare-knuckle boxer could only punch another person's face or head that many times before he broke his knuckles. And the boxing glove actually protected the knuckles. The idea of nations is actually a relatively new idea. People identified with all sorts of groups. Historically, they might have identified with their religion or with their class or with their profession or with their family. But the idea that there were British people and there were French people, and that was actually important. Not just people who happened to live on the British Isles or people who happened to be subject to the King of France, but who were Englishmen and Frenchmen. That was a new idea in the 18th century. And it was expressed not just in political philosophy and not just in political speeches, but it was expressed in everyday activities like boxing. Unlike the French, the supporters of boxing said, the British settled their disputes in a natural, civilized, and manly way. The French would, and other people on the European continent, would be quick to reach for their swords or their pistols. And of course that resulted in real brutal violence. It resulted in widows and orphans. And over what? Over an insult. I wanted to take a historical case, to take a case study, to present it to students as a window onto all these other aspects of history: Jewish history, British history, the history of gender and manliness, and nationalism as well.